In the cold metal hallway of the alien space station, Silence walked beside a small girl. She had pale blue skin, glowing silver eyes, and long white hair that touched her back. Her name was Kylara, but nobody called her by name. To them, she was only the mute girl. She sat quietly in the corner of a holding cell. Her hands were tied, but she made no noise, no struggle. Her head stayed down, her eyes empty. Outside the cell stood a tall alien man. His armor was polished, his voice full of pride and cruelty. This was Governor Threx, her stepfather. He laughed with the guards around him. "She's a broken thing," he said, pointing at her. "Never spoke a word since she was brought to my house, waste of food. I should have thrown her into space years ago." The guards laughed. One of them kicked the bars. Kylara didn't move. She didn't blink. She just watched the floor. Then heavy footsteps echoed down the hall. A new figure appeared, a human dot. His name was Commander Rain Carter, a soldier from Earth. His armor was scratched, his face tired, but his eyes sharp. He stopped in front of the cell, looking at the girl. Then he looked at Threx. "This is the trade Rain?" asked. Threx nodded, smirking. "Yes, one useless girl in return for your Earth weapons. Seems like a good deal." Rain didn't smile. He stepped closer to the bars. "Why her?" Threx shrugged. "Because she's nothing, useless, mute. No one will miss her." Rain stared at the girl. Something felt wrong. She didn't look afraid, just calm. To calm, the guards opened the cell. They pushed her forward. She walked slowly. No fear, no anger. Just silence. Threx leaned in close to Rain and whispered, "If she dies on your ship, don't blame me." She never spoke to anyone, not even once. Rain nodded without answering. He took her arm gently and guided her to his ship. As the doors of his shuttle closed, he looked down at her. Her eyes met his for the first time, and then, in a soft voice, barely louder than a breath, she spoke. "Wait." Rain froze. His eyes went wide. He leaned down. "Did you just talk?" She nodded. "Only to you," she whispered. Rain stared at her. He checked the comms. No one else was listening. "Why?" he asked. "Why me?" Kylara looked away. "Because you're not like them." Inside the ship, she sat quietly while he checked systems. His mind raced. Was this a trick? Some alien trap? But every time he looked at her, he felt something strange. "It's not danger, something else." "What's your name?" he asked. She hesitated, then whispered, "Kylara." "Why do you pretend to be mute?" he asked. She looked at him, her voice flat but serious. "Because my voice is dangerous." Rain raised an eyebrow. "Dangerous? How?" She didn't answer. She just stared out the window into space. They traveled for 2 hours in silence. Rain gave her food and water. She ate slowly, politely. No panic, no begging. No tears then. Just as he began to relax, an alarm went off. "Warning, incoming ships detected." Rain jumped to the controls. 3 unknown ships were chasing them. Kylara stood beside him. "Calm. They're not after you," she said. Rain looked at her. "What?" She turned her glowing eyes to him. "They're here for me." The ship shook as the first blast hit the shields. Rain cursed under his breath and grabbed the controls. "Why are they chasing you?" "What are you?" Kylara whispered. "I'm what they fear." She turned, walked to the back of the ship, and sat in the center. Her eyes closed. Her lips moved, though no sound came. And then the lights flickered. The engines shook. The enemy ships outside began to lose control. One exploded. Another turned away. The third spun in circles before vanishing into space. Rain stared at the screen. Speechless. Kylara opened her eyes and whispered, "This is why I don't speak." Rain's mouth went dry. "What the hell are you?" he asked again, softer. This time, she looked at him. "I was born from two worlds. One gave me silence, the other gave me voice. But both fear what happens when I speak." The screen blinked again, more ships approaching. Kylara stood slowly. "You should leave." "Me," she said. "Or they'll come for you too." Rain tightened his grip on the controls. "Not happening." He looked at her, and for the first time, saw her not as a prisoner, but as a secret the galaxy had hidden for too long. She met his eyes. "Then listen carefully, Commander. Because I only speak to you." It began with silence again. But this time, it was the kind that came before a storm, inside the small human ship. Dim lights blinked, metal groaned, and Commander Rain Carter sat frozen in the pilot's seat. His hand hovered above the controls. But his eyes were locked on the strange girl sitting behind him. She wasn't afraid of the alarms. She wasn't afraid of the chaos. She just watched. .com. Like she already knew how this would end. .CELARA. The mute girl who spoke only to him. "You're not ordinary," Rain finally said. Kylara looked up. Her silver eyes shimmered in the dark cabin. "No one is ordinary when they're hunted by their own kind," she whispered. Rain studied her face. "What do they want from you?" She paused for a moment, as if deciding how much to reveal. "They don't want me. They want to keep others from finding out what I am." "And what are you?" he asked. "Proof," she said, "that their lies are breaking." Rain leaned back in his seat. She wasn't making much sense, but something in his gut told him she wasn't lying. He activated the autopilot and walked over to her. She didn't flinch. "So, your voice, it destroys machines?" he asked. Kylara shook her head slowly. "Not just machines. I can bend energy, matter, thought. My voice isn't sound, it's command." Rain frowned. "That's not science." "Not yet," she replied. "But humans, you're getting close." That made Rain stop. She said humans like she wasn't one of them. But she looked half human. Almost. Then it hit him. "You're a hybrid," he said quietly. "Part human, part what?" Kylara didn't answer. Instead, she touched her chest right where her heart would be. "My mother was human," she said softly. "She died because of it." Rain felt something sharp twist in his chest. The girl was no older than 15, yet she spoke like she'd lived 100 years of pain. "And your father?" he asked. "He never cared," she whispered. "So my mother married someone else, an alien noble. Threx." Her voice changed slightly colder. "He hated what I was. Locked me away. Told everyone I was mute. That I was broken, but he knew the truth." Rain clenched his jaw. "And then gave you to me like a trade, like cargo." Kylara looked out the small window into space, because to him, I was dangerous, but useless. He thought you'd kill me or leave me somewhere. Rain sat across from her. The air between them felt heavy. "Why me, Kylara?" he asked again. "Why did you speak to me and no one else?" She hesitated. Then, for the first time, she looked almost shy. "When I first saw you, on the station, you didn't laugh. You didn't look at me like a tool. You paused. You noticed." Rain blinked. "That's it. That's everything," she said. "To people like me, being noticed with kindness is rare." Before Rain could answer, the ship shook. A message came through the comms, encrypted and urgent. He opened it. "Priority Earth, Command, Black Channel, Rain Carter. Deliver the girl to the Council. In return, Earth will be protected from the coming purge. He stared at the message. "They're using her," he muttered. "Trading her life for Earth's safety." Kylara stood behind him now, quiet as a shadow. "What does it say?" she asked. Rain closed the message, turned off the screen. Nothing important. She studied his face. "You're a good liar," she said, "but I can feel your heart." He didn't look at her. "I don't want to turn you in." "But you might," she said. He looked up, angry. "Do you think I'm like them? That I'd sell you for peace?" Kylara didn't smile. She just said, "I think everyone has a price. The trick is finding the right currency." Before he could respond, a siren rang through the ship. Incoming transmission from the council ship. Rain looked at her. She was calm, unshaken. "What now?" he asked. Kylara answered quietly. "Now we find out what kind of man you really are." There was a sound in the ship that didn't come from the engine. It wasn't a beep. It wasn't metal. It was breathing, heavy, slow, careful, like someone was trying not to be heard. Commander Rain Carter sat frozen in his chair, not because he was afraid of Kylara, but because she wasn't the one breathing. "We're not alone," he whispered. Kylara had already moved. Silently, quickly, she stood in the shadows near the back wall. Her silver eyes glowed just enough to catch the shape of something behind the air vents. "There's a hunter," she said. "One of them? They've sent a scout to kill me." Rain grabbed his sidearm. He turned off the ship lights. Darkness fell. Everything was quiet. Then movement. The vent popped. A long insect-like arm reached out, followed by a small, crawling alien. It had no face, just black skin and many blinking red eyes. It made no sound, no growl. Only the soft hiss of breath through its vents. Kylara stepped forward. "This one is not alive," she whispered. "It's a machine, a living drone. Programmed to remove me quietly." Rain raised his weapon. "Then I'll blast it to hell." "No," Kylara said. "Let me try something first." Rain watched, unsure. Kylara walked slowly toward the creature. The drone stopped. Its eyes blinked rapidly, confused, as if it couldn't read her energy. She raised her hand not to fight, but to speak, and then she whispered, no words. No language, just sound. A strange, soft vibration like wind blowing through metal wires. The drone froze. Its red eyes dimmed. Then, with a quiet click, it collapsed onto the floor, completely deactivated. Rain stared at it. "You shut it down." With your voice, Kylara nodded. "Only a small command. I told it to rest." Rain looked from the drone to her. That wasn't rest. That was death. She looked away. There is no rest for weapons like that. Later, in the quiet of the cockpit, Rain studied Kylara from a distance. She sat by the viewport, staring into space. She looked so small, but the more he learned, the more he realized. She wasn't weak. She was holding herself back. "What else can you do?" he finally asked. Kylara didn't answer at first. Then she said, "I can break things. Not just machines, ideas, rules, even memory." Rain frowned. "Memory?" "Yes. My voice can remove thoughts. Plant new ones. I used it on a guard once. He forgot who I was. So why don't you just speak your way out of this?" he asked. "Why let people hurt you, lock you up?" She closed her eyes. "Because power without control is disaster. I was only 8 when I spoke in anger once." The entire room stopped breathing. Rain felt cold in his chest. "They died." She nodded. "Even my mother was afraid after that." Suddenly, the ship jolted. Rain rushed to the controls. They had exited hyperspace near a broken planet once green, now dust and smoke. We'll hide here, he said. No one scans this dead world. He landed the ship between metal ruins. As he powered down, he looked at her. I need to understand what's coming, Kylara. What are they planning? Kylara stood slowly, brushing dust from her hands. They fear something. Not just me. They fear what happens when others hear me. You mean? Other hybrids? Rain asked. Yes. I'm not the only one. It's just the loudest. She stepped outside. The wind was dry, the air thin. The world was empty, but it felt like something ancient had happened here. This planet, Kylara whispered. I was born here. Rain stepped beside her. What happened to it? It heard a voice, she said. One louder than mine. And then she turned to him, serious. You wanted to know what I am? She held out her hand. Watch. She spoke one word. Not in English. Not in any human language. But the ground responded. The dust began to rise. Broken metal floated off the ground. Wind stopped. Even the sun behind the clouds seemed to dim. Rain staggered back. What was that? Kylara's voice was calm, quiet. That's the sound of memory waking up. Kylara had never seen fire before. Not real fire. She sat near a small camp. Rain had built beside the ship just a few sparks, a warm glow. To her, it looked like magic. It's alive, she whispered. Rain handed her a metal cup of warm water. It's not alive. It just burns. So do people, she said softly. Rain looked at her. She wasn't wrong. The dead planet was quiet. Only broken buildings, rusted towers, and cold sky. Kylara sat with her knees up, watching the flames dance. Rain watched her. She looked younger now. Not a weapon, not a mystery. Just a girl trying to feel human. You said you were born here, Rain said. Why did your mother come to a place like this? Kylara smiled barely. Because? She fell in love with the wrong star. Rain waited. My mother was human, a pilot. She crashed here. A scientist found her. Not a soldier, not cruel like Threx. He saved her, loved her. Your real father. Kylara nodded. He gave me my voice, but he died before I ever used it. She turned her eyes to the sky. He used to say, I was the song, the galaxy. Hadn't heard yet. Rain felt something heavy in his chest. She wasn't a weapon. She was someone's child. Someone's dream. Do you miss her? He asked. Every second, Kylara said. But I don't cry anymore. Tears are loud. Rain stared at the fire. He had seen war, pain, death. But this kind of quiet hurt was different. You don't have to be quiet here, he said. She looked at him. You always say things like that, like I'm safe now, aren't you? She didn't answer. Instead, she leaned forward and asked, Why did you become a soldier? Rain chuckled softly. Because I was tired of seeing people hurt each other and doing nothing. And now? Now I carry a gun instead of guilt. Kylara tilted her head. But guilt is lighter. Rain raised his eyebrows. You're a philosopher now. No, she said. I just think too much. That night, Kylara slept for the first time in days. Rain stood watch, pacing near the ship. The stars above were bright, but his mind was clouded. His wrist beeped. Private? Message to Heidi opened it carefully. Command update. The Council increases the reward. Turn in the hybrid. Earth's protection depends on it. This is your last chance. Rain stared at the message for a long time. He looked back at Kylara's sleeping, peaceful. You have no idea what they're asking me to do, he whispered. Morning came. Dust covered the ground. Kylara was already awake, walking among the ruins. She found a broken satellite dish, long dead. She whispered to it, and it blinked. Rayn watched from a distance. What did you just do? Told it to remember, she said. And it showed me something. What? She walked over, held out her hand. Come, I want to show you. Rain followed her into a half-buried building. Inside, a screen buzzed. To life, it showed a video. Old. Low-dash quality. A woman in a spacesuit. Human. Smiling. That's her, Kylara said. My mother. Rain felt his throat tighten. The video showed her speaking to someone behind the camera, laughing, singing, then pointing to her belly. She was already pregnant, Kylara whispered. Rain looked at her. You saved this memory. No, she said. The satellite did. I just asked it to share. The screen glitched, then went dark. Kylara sat down, quiet again. I never heard her voice before this. Rain sat beside her. Now you have it. They sat together in silence. But this time, it felt warm, not empty. Later, as they prepared to leave, Rain walked up to Kylara. You trust me, don't you? He asked. She didn't look at him. I don't know what trust means anymore. When I speak, it's always. To you, that must mean something. He nodded slowly. It does, but deep inside, guilt began to grow. Because he hadn't told her the truth. Because he hadn't deleted the message. Because somewhere in the stars, Tipo were waiting for him to deliver her. Guilt has a sound. It doesn't scream. It doesn't beg. It whispers over and over in the back of your mind. You're doing the right thing. She's just a mission. This will save billions. Rain told himself that. Again and again. But each time he looked at her, it got harder to believe. Kylara sat near the front of the ship, legs crossed, hands folded, staring at the stars like they were old friends. Calm, trusting, she had no idea that Rain had already sent a message. He had chosen Earth. He had chosen the safety of millions over the life of one girl. The council ship was waiting in the shadows of a dead moon, massive, silent, like a floating courtroom, ready for its sentence. Rain's comes crackled. Bring the hybrid on board. Alone, no weapons. We will honor the deal. He turned off the signal and looked at her. Kylara, we need to land. She didn't ask why. She just stood. You're quiet, she said. Even for you. Forced a small smile. Just tired. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing. You've made a decision. He blinked. What? Your heart changed. I can hear it. Rain looked away. You said your voice can change things, he said. Can it change people? Only if they want to be changed, she answered softly. And if they don't, then my voice becomes goodbye. They landed inside the council's docking bay. Bright white lights, armored guards. No weapons drawn yet. Rain stepped out first. She's here, as agreed. The council's voice came through speakers flat and cold. Step back, Commander. You fulfilled your duty. Earth is now protected. Kylara stepped forward slowly. She looked around at the silent guards. She looked up at the tower where the council watched, and then, so looked at Rain. So, this is the deal. Rain opened his mouth. Nothing came out. You chose them, she said quietly. Even after I told you, I only speak to you. His throat tightened. Kylara, it's all right, she said. This is what everyone does. I get it now. The lights grew brighter. The guards raised their sun knacks. She didn't resist, but before they touched her, she turned to Rain and said, You should have told me. I might have still forgiven you. Her voice shook not with power, but with pain. That hurt Rain more than anything. Inside the holding chamber, Kylara was placed in a glowing cage of energy designed to silence her. Her voice couldn't escape. One of the council officers leaned over. You could have been a weapon for us. Now you'll be a warning. Kylara just stared at him, no words. No expression, but in her eye stillness, like the moment before. Storm. Rain stood alone in the control room. The council had honored the deal. Earth was safe. Billions would live. His name would be remembered as a hero. But none of it felt like victory. He kept hearing her last words. "I only speak to you." He looked at the monitors. Kylara, trapped. Silent, and yet, something strange was happening. The ship's lights flickered. Systems blinked. Metal began to hum. The guard next to her fell to his knees, hands on his ears. Rain's eyes widened. Oh no. The chamber cracked, not from outside, from within. And then, though no sound could pass the energy field, Kylara spoke. No one could hear the words, but the ship did. Doors opened, screens shattered. Engines shut down. The entire council vessel began to tremble. And inside her cell, Kylara smiled for the first time. Rain ran. He dodged broken beams, climbed over sparks and bodies, and reached the chamber just as the field collapsed. She stood in the center of the destruction, calm, untouched. He stepped forward, breathless. "Kylara, I'm sorry." She looked at him. "You betrayed me." "I had to choose Earth," he said, voice shaking. "They said if I didn't." "You didn't ask me," she interrupted. "Would it have mattered?" "Yes," she said, "because I could have saved both." Rain felt tears in his eyes. He hadn't cried since boot camp. Then save it now. Save Earth. She looked past him at the wrecked control center. "Now they know I can't be silenced." "So what happens now?" Kylara's voice turned cold. "Now, the galaxy listens." The first planet fell silent. Then the second. Then the 12th. No warships. No bombs, just a sound. Not a scream. Not a command. A whisper. Kylara's voice had finally escaped the council's cage. And it didn't stop at the walls of one ship. It traveled through machines, through power lines, through hidden frequencies no one could trace. The girl who had been called mute had now spoken, and the galaxy was listening. Every system with hybrid bloodlines hidden for years, living in fear felt. It's something inside them unlocked, a forgotten instinct, a pull toward something they didn't understand in the slums of a mining moon. A boy with glowing veins looked up from his hands, his tools floating suddenly in the air. On a desert world, a blind girl blinked, then saw the energy fields around her, and in the dark skies of old Terra, machines whispered in binary. She speaks, she calls, she rises. Rain stood by the wrecked council chamber. Sparks flew. Smoke drifted. Kylara was quiet now, but the damage had been done. "They'll come for you again," he said. "You know that." "Let them," she answered. "They'll learn I'm not alone anymore." "What did you do?" he asked. She looked at him not with anger, but with something stronger. Purpose. "I reminded the forgotten what they are," she said. "We were never weak. We were only waiting." The council sent new fleets. They tried to erase the transmission. Too late. Whole colonies shut down their networks in fear. Others surrendered without a shot, and in secret places abandoned labs. Slave factories, refugee ships, they rose. Young hybrids, old ones. Some who hadn't spoken in years. Some who didn't even know they had power. But now, they remembered her voice, and they followed it in the shadows of a rebel station. Kylara sat at the center of a circular room. Her hair floated gently as energy pulsed through the air. Her eyes glowed soft silver. Rain stood beside her no longer. Her jailer, no longer her commander, just her guard. "You've become something more," he said. "They call you a prophet now." "I'm not a prophet," Kylara said. "Then what are you?" A warning. A message was sent from her ship to all known systems. Simple, short, but impossible to block. To those who were told to stay silent, peak. To those who were told they were mistakes, stand. To those who hid their power, come forward. I am Kalara, and I was never alone. Some called it rebellion. Some called it evolution. But across 100 worlds, one truth echoed louder than the rest. Humanity had feared the wrong enemy. The council, once all-powerful, began to split. A few members fled. Some begged for peace. Others prepared for war inside the new resistance fleet. Kalara stood before her people. There were dozens now. Some were just children. Others were warriors who had forgotten how to hope. Kalara didn't shout. She didn't need to. She simply said, "This isn't revenge. This is return. We will not burn their cities. We will not kill their children. We will show them what they tried to erase." She paused, looked at Rain. "We show them what a voice really is." Rain, now fully part of her inner circle, stood at the bridge. A message from Earth had just arrived. Urgent Council forces. Approach Earth orbit, requesting aid. We were wrong. She is not our enemy. She is our only chance. And he looked at Kalara. "They're calling for you, after everything. Do you believe them?" she asked. "I don't know," he said, "but I believe in you." She walked to the window, staring out at the stars. "Then we go to Earth," she said. "For revenge. Not for war, but so they hear me, one last time, and far away, on a dark world where her stepfather Threx still ruled." He sat in his throne, eyes fixed on the broadcasts, whispering to himself. She was supposed to stay silent. But now she was the voice of a new age, and it was just beginning. The first thing Kalara ever heard was her mother's heartbeat. It was slow, warm, steady. Not words, not language, just truth. A promise that she was not alone. Now standing above Earth with a rebel fleet behind her, Kalara heard something else, the heartbeat of a planet. Loud, fast, afraid. She closed her eyes and listened. "Still afraid of me?" she whispered. Rain stood beside her. He wore no armor, just truth. "They're afraid of what they don't understand," he said. "Then I'll make them understand." The fleet entered Earth's orbit. No shots fired, no threats made. Kalara sent one signal. A request, not a demand. "Let me speak. Once, to all. Then choose." And Earth listened for the first time in history. Every screen, every device, every satellite tuned in to one voice. One girl. She appeared. On screen, no effects, no throne, no army behind her. Just Kalara, standing in silence. Then she spoke. "You called me a danger. You caged me, labeled me broken, called me mute. But the truth is, you feared my voice before I ever used it." Her silver eyes looked into every camera. "What if I told you I was never your enemy? That I could have destroyed your ships, your cities, your leaders, but I didn't. Because I'm not here to conquer. I'm here to remind. You created people like me. Then you threw us away." She raised her hand. Energy shimmered around it, not as a weapon, but as light. "We don't want your power. We don't want your seats at your tables. We just want our names back. Our homes, our voices." Her voice dropped to a whisper. "And this is my last word to you. Not war, not silence, but choice." Across Earth, people watched. Some wept. Some clapped. Some turned away. But none could say they didn't hear her. Not this time, in the ruins of the Council's last stronghold. Kalara walked alone. No guards. No army, only the Great Hall, where laws were written and voices erased. Rain waited outside. "Are you sure?" he asked. "They'll try to trap you." "They already did," she said. "And I escaped. Now I walk in free. Inside, the last council members stood, wounded, proud, angry. Threx stood among them, her stepfather, pale and trembling. You came to destroy us, he said. Kylara stepped forward. No. She looked at each of them. I came to ask you a question. Silence. Why did you fear a child with a voice? No answer. Because you knew she would speak the truth, she said. Then she looked at Threx and you. You thought silence would erase what I am. You're not a leader, he growled. You're a weapon. Kylara smiled. Sadly, no. I was a girl. You turned me into a weapon. Then why are we still alive? One counselor asked. Kylara turned to leave. Because I decided to end this with my voice, not my wrath. She paused at the door. If you speak lies again, the galaxy will silence you. Outside, Rain stood as the crowd gathered hybrids. Humans, machines, waiting taxi, laid stepped. And Rain said, It's done. No, she replied. It started. He looked confused. She looked at the stars. We were waiting to be accepted, but we don't need permission anymore. We just need space to exist. What now? He asked. She looked at him. Now we build. Years later. They called it the Harmonic Accorda, new alliance between humans and hybrids. A new Earth rose. One where voices mattered. Kylara never ruled, never claimed titles. But her words were studied in schools, carved in metal, whispered like prayers. And in every ship, in every station, one sentence was etched. She spoke, and the galaxy changed.